Hello and welcome to the session where we are looking at the AccreditationAutoMate component of the AutoScholar Advisor system. So we are looking at version 3 of the AutoScholar. So the AccreditationAutoMate component will look significantly different to its appearance in version 2, which you might be familiar with. And you can see here that we are going to review a sample of an academic program accreditation system. So looking at the sample system, we are going to review the functionality using anonymized student data. So when you load this up at your institution, you'll have a list of accreditation objects typically here, and then you can specify the year here for the body of students who are registered in that year. So you specify a specific year or comma-separated set of years, and you would typically be looking at all students registered in those years. And if you click on load, give it a couple of seconds, you'll find a list of students will appear here, and it's already showing us one of those students, the accreditation report for one of those students. Now you see this garbled texture, and that's because, as I mentioned, we are looking at the anonymized view of this data because this is a real data set from a real institution. So you'll see up here the student's name, first name and last name, and then the student number there. And so we are looking first at the student report. So there's the student report, there's also the report for the whole academic program, and then we'll see how to edit the accreditation object itself. So here, just talking through the student report, as mentioned, your student name and student number is there, and you can select any student that was registered in that academic program in that year. So just selecting another student, you see it reloads here, and then it gives us the advice for the student. So it tells us the student has not satisfied all the graduate attribute requirements for this accreditation program, and it's specifying which graduate attributes have not been specified. So there are, if you like, 3 layers of evaluation. So of course you've got the overall accreditation body. So you've got, for example, in South Africa we have the Engineering Council of South Africa, and then in a specific institution you'll have a specific academic program being accredited by that body. So looking at chemical engineering at this made-up Acme University, so that's just another anonymization. We are looking at this at the evaluation of this specific student against that accreditation set of requirements. So with the 3 levels, you've got the accreditation system, then you've got the graduate attributes, which, if you like, are the larger set of attributes. For example, in the XR system mentioned, there are 10 attributes ranging from problem solving to design to the ability to communicate and so on. So you've got, if you like, at the top level of that accreditation system, you've got the graduate attributes. And then each attribute is further subdivided into range statements. So for example, in the case of effectively communicating, you have the range statement about verbal communication and then about written communication, right? So each graduate attribute can be further subdivided into the range statements. And quite often institutions will use the distinction between beginner, intermediate, and exit level also as part of the range statements. So you can customize the graduate attribute and the range statement. We'll look at how to do that just now. But the advice given to the student here is just in terms of the overall compliance for that accreditation system. And the next box here goes one level deeper than that. So the reason for these not being satisfied, it's specifying here which grad attributes have not been satisfied, or which range statements have not been satisfied. So you see here the overall advice is that GA1 is not satisfied, and GA1 is not satisfied because specifically the range statement, the second range statement, is not satisfied. The student may have satisfied the first range statement requirement. and GA2 is not satisfied because both range statements are not satisfied. So this is giving us one level more resolution. And then looking at the range statements, it's saying here your range 1 has been achieved, and it's giving the reason for achieving this range statement. So it's saying the student has achieved this mark in this particular course, and there was a minimum required of 50%. So the student has satisfied the first range statement for GA1, but not the second one. So overall, GA1 is not satisfied, and GA2 is not satisfied at all. So that's the summary advice. And then if you want to see the detail behind that, if you want to confirm that this is the correct advice, you can go ahead and look at the student records here. So for this particular student, all the records are shown, and so that updates every time you change the student selection. It will give you all the records for that student. Please note also that as part of the anonymization, there is some randomization applied to the results as well. So it's not completely randomized. It's there's the student's result plus some numbers within a certain amplitude have been applied to support the anonymization. Otherwise, it's fairly easy to figure out which student results these are. If you don't anonymize results in that way. So anyway, that's what we have for an individual student. Now, obviously, we want a more summaric report as well. So we go here under Academic Program Report. And first off, you've got all the students listed here. So the summary, so it tells us this student hasn't satisfied all these range statements, and overall it's not satisfied. So you can review for the whole program all that advice. And then there's another, so the same information is shown here, but with all the detail behind it. So it's showing all those, the range statements and the individual criteria for the range statements. That's all specified here. And you can download this, for example, to Excel. So let's just open that up. And just looking at that on this side, please note the anonymized data is still shown here. And then now you've got a report that you can customize to your accrediting body. So you've got the overall summary, you've got the status of each grad attribute, and then you've got the range statement expansion into your individual criteria. So this is a complete set of data that you can use for creating your accreditation report. Coming back here, that's so that is the program view of your result. And now let's look at the accreditation object itself. So how do we encode the rules for obtaining these reports? So the object editor is shown here. So the accreditation object is stored in a JSON format. So JavaScript object notation. It's quite a convenient way to represent data like this. And you can see here we specify the program that is being evaluated. We specify a label for this accreditation object, because typically there'll be multiple objects available, and so far I've just loaded one here. And you have a date here, so you've got the year in which we specified these criteria. Here's another set for a different year. So the system does support that if you are changing your criteria over time, then it will still generate the correct advice, even for students who are transitioning. So let's say you had students in the system between 2011 and 2016 who entered in that range, and who go on to study further in 2017, 2018, 2019, then it will still respect these criteria in the right ranges, and it will deliver the correct results. So you can see that for each instance of the accreditation object, we have the grad attributes here. So we specify a code for the grad attribute, and we can specify another name for it here, a more descriptive label for it, which will occur in the reports. And then you specify the range statements. So you see within this grad attribute, there are these range statements, so design and problem solving under engineering competence. And then you have a criterion here. So in this case, the criteria are quite easy. When you just specify a course code, then it will simply look for whether the student has passed that course or not. It is also possible to instead use specific assessments in that course. And you can also specify, instead of just requiring a simple pass mark, you can specify a min mark and things like that. So you can customize the criterion quite a lot. Furthermore, you can also use deeply nested logic. So you can, for instance, have an AND condition, and there are various things that you can do to create very sophisticated criteria. So that's a little bit out of the scope of this video. There will be another video in this in the training section. In fact, the present video will go in here. So down here under documentation and training, you can also get more information about how to create the very sophisticated criteria that sometimes arise. So you can easily incorporate things like that this set of courses or this set using these specific criteria, and it can be and or so it can be as deeply nested as you like, and you can be as specific as you like as well. You can be specific at the level of individual assessments. You can specify modifiers to that. So with a bit of training, it's probably only a 10-minute video required to figure out how to specify these criteria. You'll be able to create your accreditation object. And in fact, this has been used at a number of different universities. There's enough flexibility in there to accommodate some very complicated and very specific accreditation criteria. Okay, so this is just a first look at the AccreditationAutoMate component. There will be more updates coming. There are more features planned. So the ability to host a portfolio of evidence and even creating a live version of the accreditation report itself, the ability to grant the accreditation body visiting panel access to the system. So all those kinds of features will be described in the future videos.